Joseph in Philadelphia. Joseph, how's it going?
Oh, hi. I surprised. I put my name down as Stan, so I was surprised that you're, yeah, Joseph's my last name.
Oh, okay. What would you like us to call you?
Okay. Stan, S-T-A-N, but it's fine. I've called before. First of all, I want to say, yeah, Faraday or Caleb, is that your name?
Yeah, Caleb. You can call me Caleb.
Okay. Yeah. Hi. Yeah, I have seen your I've seen your video, and it was actually really, really powerful. Like, I think you did a fantastic job on it, and I know it must have been hard to kind of expose yourself like that. I mean, no one likes to have themselves fully exposed to the world like that, but you did a fantastic job, and I'm glad it's been able to help other people so much. But okay, I guess my question, I have kind of two questions, but I guess my big question is that how can a person of color productively interact with you? A person going down the alt-right a rabbit hole. What's the best way to do that? Like, without the screaming and yelling. I mean, before you answer that question, I'd like to say, I think, as a person of color, I don't think it's any of our responsibility to do this, obviously. I think, like, it's not our responsibility to teach white people one way or the other, and we're entitled to our anger. But for those of us who do want to have a productive conversation, what do you think would be most effective for people who are in your mindset?
So a lot of what the work I'm doing right now is very experimental. I'm learning on the job. One thing I've noticed is getting people away from the arguments and getting people away from sitting and debating with you and just having a personal conversation. Try to get to know them and their life. And basically what I do is I listen and I ask them questions. And then when they say something that I don't understand, I go back and I let them explain. I say, why? And eventually they get to a point where they're like, oh, so you understand where I'm coming from. You don't think I'm a monster. Why don't you agree? And now you've got them asking questions. And so now you can begin to answer their questions. And see, when you try to have a debate with someone, everybody in this audience is educated enough that they know what cognitive dissonance is. And when you attack someone or try to debate someone, they throw up a mental wall. And if you can crack that wall by having them empathize with you and show compassion toward you, then it goes a long way. It doesn't work with everyone, and it's a long process. It's basically a one-on-one process that takes years. Daryl Davis is a documentary, or a documentary about Daryl Davis. I saw that. And he's a black man that would go in and basically befriend people in the KKK. And he's de-radicalized like 3 dozen people. And some people would say, well, 30 people, big deal. Like, he wasted his time. But he's one man that changed 30 people's minds. And he's had top grand wizards of chapters in Maryland give him their robes and give up the movement. And he did that by basically becoming friends with them and then pushing back on them over time, but in a friendly way, as friends would do. You know, if your friend was unhealthy, you wouldn't go and debate them and attack them on why, they're not eating properly. No, you'd just talk to them like a friend. And so back to your point, it's not your job to educate anybody. It's not your job to have these conversations. And it's also not something that's emotionally easy to do, especially if you're a person of color. That's why I'm trying to do it as a white person and talk to other white people. And sometimes, sadly, it takes a straight white guy to talk to a straight white guy. And there's nothing you can do about that. But if you want to do work on your own, then that's what I would advise you do, is to, if you know someone in your life that's going down this path, try to empathize with them, understand them, and ask questions, and hopefully eventually they'll start to ask you questions.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, thank you.
Amazing. What do you think about that, Stan?
I think it's a very good answer. Yeah, I mean, I think we need to start with empathy. As a person who's been on the other side of that kind of hate, it's like I was trying to say before, it's very difficult thing to do. But like, I also realized that like we're not actually going to make any progress if all we're doing is just pushing these people away, right? I mean, one of the problems is, right? So like I think all his points are really good, but a big problem is trying to figure out like who here is a gettable like person, right? A person who can be rehabilitated, right? Like who wants who has an open ear, you know? And like especially when the other side is giving you a lot of hate or just like dehumanizing you or whatever, right? Like that's a difficult thing to work out in the moment, you know? So even if you want to do that work, it's not easy really. But I think it's worth us doing because, like, I think we're really in a crucial moment in our history, right? Like looking at the politics of not only the U.S. but internationally. You know, like fascism is on the rise, right? Nationalism, and a lot of this is race-based, right? And religion-based. And so, like, this matters, right? This is a struggle that matters, and it's going to affect us all, like people of color and white people and people across the gender spectrum, you know? So we've got to tackle this, right? And I feel like we really need to come with strategies to do this effectively because the other side is working, like, day and night. To push their agenda, right? And they've been making great progress. I mean, they have a president. They have a president who's working on their side and pushing all these and pushing all the hateful messages. So I feel like our side needs to do something about that. My other question was that you know, how do we? Is there any way to keep people from going down this rabbit hole in the first place, to keep them out of the funnel? I think that'd be the best way, like preventative, be the best way of handling this. But it's like not clear how to do it. You know, like you said, YouTube is a neutral platform, right? And other people are working the algorithm. They figure out ways to work it to their advantage. So how can the other side, people who want to do the work that you're doing, Caleb, how can we best keep them out of it? Like, have you heard anything?
Yeah. So the biggest thing, the first thing I would say is this is a personal issue. Now, online, we deal with it at scale, but in your own life, if you know anyone that looks like they're going down this funnel, remember, it's not just white people, by the way. You know, it might even be someone in your own community that if you start hearing your friend like saying some very fascist type rhetoric, or talking about nationalism, or talking about, you know the warning signs. You know what to look for. If you start to see these warning signs, figure out what it is in their life that's bothering them. And even for the people that aren't even interested in this stuff or know about this stuff yet, I see this as like, once again, it's about potholes. So we need to like try to build up our communities and make sure that people aren't in a position where they feel like their back is against the wall and they're desperate. Because when people feel like their back is against the wall and they're desperate, that's when they latch onto strong ideologies to help push radical change. You know, sometimes radical change is necessary, but in a lot of these cases, it's not. And the people feel disenfranchised, they feel depressed. So we need to try to alleviate those things. And we do that by building up our communities and helping each other. You know, treat everybody like your family. In terms of what we do online, for the content creators, we need to collaborate more. We need to have shows like this where we go on each other's shows, just this type of format where we work together, and that boosts things through the algorithm. What you can do as an audience, if you're not part of that, you can donate your time to content creators. You can donate your time to websites. You can write articles. Also, what you can do is you can participate in social media in a positive way, and you can also like, share, subscribe. Those are votes. They matter. And you can also donate to your favorite content creators. $1 to a content creator like me or a content creator like Dan, it goes a long way, and it adds up. And, if everybody in Dan's audience donated $1, that'd be a huge boost. He'd be able to do so much more and pump that message out so much more. So that's what we have to do. Just whatever little bit in your life that you can do to give back in terms of the content creators, give back. And then whatever comes your day-to-day life, treat everybody like your family and give back to them as well. It's just about giving.
And this is a good time to plug. We do have a Patreon. It is patreon.com/truthwanted, where you can donate to the show if you like. I do not receive any personal money that goes to that. That all goes to the organization that helps make this show and other shows like this great. But just to echo Caleb's answer, yeah, like it's supporting the voices that you already support even more. You know, like I am lucky that I get to know so many great people in the community that I work with, and then I get to have conversations almost daily with some of these people and kind of talk about like, oh, what's going on in our community? What, you know, what do we want to talk about? Like what's kind of on our minds and stuff. And that's wonderful. And that's a really great privileged place for me to be. And I get to make shows here and talk to people every week, which is just fantastic. But like, obviously not everybody can do that, right? Like I'm super lucky to be doing what I'm doing right now. And I think honestly, it's so, it feels so slimy to say, but like the money thing is huge. The money thing is the difference between someone making their living off of YouTube and doing, you know, this stuff full time versus the person who has a lot of great things to say, but just doesn't have the time to do it because they're working 40 hours a week doing something else, you know, trying to do something else. So yeah, it comes down to financial support a lot of times, and also just like being a part of a community that you're willing to share your experiences with and just give a personal morale with. You know, sometimes you'll see me pop on the ACA Discord, and I love talking to people on there. I love getting emails from people and messages on Twitter and stuff from people. I love people talking and sharing their experiences with me. That motivates me to help make content out there and showing support to your creators. And look, even Caleb here, he reads the messages, right? Like a lot of us, even if we don't always respond, we're always looking and we're always seeing what people have to say. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that, Stan.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for your input. And yeah, I agree. If possible, support the creators. You guys have done so much. Like I also taken way too much YouTube, like all the time.
Oh,
but,
dude, me too. Me too. Yeah.
But yeah, I think supporting the creators, do what we can, even if it's just like leaving comments, supportive comments, and starting a good dialogue in the comment section that's not utterly toxic as it usually is. Yeah. I think that would be a good way of starting things.
Let me add one more thing to that too, Stan. If you really want to get the message out there to whatever cause you're fighting for, personal conversations are more meaningful than sending somebody a YouTube video out of context, right? I like Caleb's video a lot. I think he has a lot of great things to say. If I send that to somebody who's not interested, well, they're not going to care. Right. But if they're probing at things and they're willing to talk to you about things, and yeah, we just did have that conversation of like people of color, for example, probably shouldn't, you know, it's not their job. It's not their responsibility. But if you're willing, you know, you can go a long way with that for sure.
Yeah.
Dan, hop on the Discord channel. We're doing work over there. If you go follow me on Twitter, the pinned message is the Discord channel, and you come in there and talk with us, and we're doing this work live with people. We deal with a lot of trolls, but...
So do you think you're actually having alt-right people like show up and have these discussions, or is it like more people?
We deal with trolls, but we have had people that have changed their mind.
Okay, that's fantastic. Yeah, maybe that'd be a good place to start. Thanks so much for listening to me. And I'd like to say the atheist rabbit hole is the best rabbit hole.
If it gets to me, then it's a good rabbit hole, right?
I think Dan would be the light stuff, and Matt would definitely be the hard stuff. But I think you're a great start, and I'm thankful for the ACA for all it's done, especially when we call and talk to you guys.
Oh, of course, Stan. Anytime you want to call in, please do so. I really appreciate the call, dude. Hope to hear from you again.
Thanks, Stan.
Yeah, man, good stuff. And wow, what a great way to talk about this, because you know, people have these conversations about personal responsibility on the issues that they're really passionate about. And you know, as a host, I try to be neutral about a lot of topics, but offline, when I'm not on here, I advocate for things, right? I have opinions on things, and so, you know, like it can feel kind of depressing sometimes seeing the people around you doing things that you disagree with. The abortion stuff that's going on right now. That's something that I've talked a little bit about offline with some people and stuff, and that's something I feel a little strongly about. It's like, wow, I don't like that the bill is happening and stuff. And it's sad, but you know, it's all about the community for me. At the end of the day, that's what gets me going, hearing from people every week, you know, talking to people about this. I don't know, what motivates you to have these kinds of conversations?
I have a lot of people that reach out to me and they just say, you know, your message is powerful. It was heartfelt. A lot of people like opening up to me when I get to have a private conversation with someone on Discord and they open up to me about their life. That's fucking huge. Like that's huge. The messages, the emails that I get about people that came out, that's huge. And then when people like Stan say, hey, you know, I understand it's messed up. I understand that these people are messed up and like it's hard, but what can I do? And when I see people thinking in that way, you know, look, we might never make progress that's noticeable, right? But pushing that boulder back in the other direction, I love seeing people doing that.
And yeah, before we go to our next caller too, I just want to mention Stan said something really interesting. He was like, well, I'm not sure what the criteria is for the kinds of people we should spend our time even talking to, which is really interesting. And we didn't really address that. You know, if somebody had used some sort of criteria on me a few years ago and said I wasn't worth talking to, I wouldn't be here right now. Right. And that's something to really think about. I think that the times when we have conversations with people, you know, they may become more meaningful as time goes on. And it may be something that people will reflect on as, you know, a cornerstone to where they are today. I've been lucky to see that in real time. I've had conversations with people who I've been able to talk to later and say like, yeah, I'm glad we talked about that because I feel differently about this issue. And that is such a satisfying feeling. I hope people who are having conversations get that feeling one day. You know, because it makes it feel like you are doing something, you know, and people matter. All people matter to have conversations with, right?
Yeah, we deal with trolls because that's the nature of the internet. So we have people that come in and argue in bad faith, and they literally are not trying to have their mind changed or to see things from another perspective. And so we do have to be conscious of our time in that. And people on 4chan will even run operations where they'll run fake accounts. Multiple people will run a fake account, or they'll come in and brigade a server. So we have to be mindful of that in our specific area, but you can't just think that people are beyond the pale. You have to give them a chance. And it's a process. Once again, it took me on my own through just YouTube and conversations and life experience. It took 1.5 years to fully de-radicalize. So it's a long process, but we do also have to be mindful of our time.
Oh, and it takes time, y'all. It takes so much time that a lot of people don't have, unfortunately. But, you know, I got to say, for me, it was worth it, right? You know, and it does take a kind of personalities, too, the types that are willing to do the research and things. And you have to have the skills to be able to do that kind of research and look into things, and that's a whole other thing.